All right, I'm here. Twitch.tv/110sports, 110sportsmedia.com/live. My name is Josh. This is the JMULL Show. Thank you for joining us on November 11th. It is a Wednesday. I just bit my tongue. It is a Wednesday, and it is the eve of the Masters. Can we take a moment to appreciate what I just said? It is a Wednesday. It is November 11th, and it is Masters Eve. November, and it is Masters Eve, and I know we talked about this on Monday, but I am pumped. It is up there with one of my favorite weeks of the entire sports year. You know, you get the beginning of the NCAA tournament. That Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday rounds 1 and 2 are just incredible. You got the Masters in general, and then Masters on Sunday in particular. There are some other things that I really like on the sports calendar. Conference tournament week, feast week in a normal year, but the Masters and just majors in general, the Masters are really, really high up there in terms of events that I just can't, that I count down the days for and can't wait until they actually get here. Because there are, of course, events that I get excited for, but and things like the NBA Finals, I'm a big fan of, and the Super Bowl, of course, but I don't really count the days down to those. I count the days down to the Masters, and I'm so excited for the Masters for multiple reasons, of course. But just the novelty of having the Masters in November is pretty high up on the list. I'm extremely, extremely excited. We're going to get deep into the bets that I have lined up on the Masters for the week so far. I'm sure we'll do some in-tournament betting on who's going to win each who's going to end up winning each group per round, who's going to have the best score. Then we'll look at some of my more overarching bets, some of the things I'm looking at. But we got a lot to get to. The first, and something that really can't be overlooked is the weather. Now, from a temperature standpoint, there's nothing all that extreme going on. But tomorrow, thunderstorms, 100% chance of rain. And then we've got either partly cloudy or early morning showers throughout this week. And the wind seems like it's going to be pretty calm, but a wet golf course plays longer. But at the same time, the Masters and Augusta National it's no longer, and it never really has been, but certainly at this point, it's not a golf course that's going to overpower anybody. The par fives are gettable. Almost everybody in the field can reach the par fives in 2 if they hit good tee shots, specifically 15 and 13. That's part of why the back 9 at Augusta is so exciting. It's because you have some tough holes in there. You have the 12th, the par 3 with the water in front. But you also have these par 5s that somebody can get 3 or 4 shots back. If they, eagle on both of those holes is not out of the question. And that leaves a lot. And then you have the back left pin, I guess front left, the left side of the green on 16, that the way the green slopes. We saw it with John Rahm skipping it across the water and then, putting it in the hole. That was awesome. But that same idea, the pin for Sunday is a little closer to the front of the green. But the way that the contours of the 16th green. That is, I mean, we saw it in 2019 with Tiger, and I mean, he had 3 feet for birdie on that hole because of the contours. You put it in the right spot, or really in the right 20-foot area, and it's gonna roll down to within 10 feet of the hole. So there are a lot of scoring opportunities on the back nine at Augusta. But the original point being is that we could put ourselves in a situation here where we have some low score. If on Thursday we have a lot of rain, but then 20%, 20%, 30% the rest of the next 3 days, we could have a golf course that plays into the that it is good for guys who carry it a long way, but also just guys are going to be able to throw darts if the golf course is soft. Just going to be able to just throw it right at the pin, and that's Augusta gets really tough when everything is so quick because the contours of the green are so drastic. You got to put it in the right spot. It's a lot easier to put the ball in the right spot if you're going to be able to make the ball sit down right where you want it to. So keep an eye on the weather. Keep an eye on how the golf course reacts to that weather, because it's going to be an important part of this championship. But that's a big part of it, but not the most intriguing part of it. Let's take a look at the first round pairings. Going off the first tee, some of the more interesting groupings that I'm looking at right off the bat: Adam Scott, Colin Morikawa, and Tyrrell Hatton; Justin Thomas, Matthew Fitzpatrick, and Brooks Koepka; Phil Mickelson, Abraham Ancer, and Bernd Wiesberger. Wiesberger's been really good recently. His odds are really, really long, 200 to 1, I believe. But he's been playing well. Danny Willett, Ricky Fowler, and John Augenstein, that's an interesting one. Probably the highlight group going off the first tee in round 1 is Dustin Johnson, Patrick Cantlay, and Rory McIlroy. That's at noon on Thursday. And then, of course, you're wondering, where's Tiger? Tiger is in a weird group, to be honest with you. Shane Lowry, Andy Ogletree. For those who don't know who Andy Ogletree is the he's not the reigning U.S. Amateur champion anymore. He won back in 2019 at Pinehurst, but of course the Masters this spring would have been his Masters exemption. So of course he gets into the field at the end of the year here. Patrick Reed, Paul Casey, Tony Finau, John Rahm, and Bryson DeChambeau playing together off the 10th tee at 7:33 tomorrow morning. Bubba Watson, Matthew Wolff, Tommy Fleetwood, that's an interesting one. Jordan Spieth, Gary Woodland, Ian Poulter. So it's a Masters field, so it's got talent all over the place. Some of those, apart from it being Tiger, I'm not super intrigued by that grouping, but it's Tiger, it's the 2019 US Am champ, and then Shane Lowry, who's also not a master, but a major champion at the Open a couple years back. Justin Thomas, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Brooks Koepka, that's a really good one at 11:49 off of the first tee on Thursday. All of these Eastern time, of course. But I'm pretty excited for some of these groups. We'll see how, of course, there are some that are more stunning and a lot more fun to watch than others. I'm looking at that 11:49 and 12 noon back-to-back pairings, and Thomas Fitzpatrick and Koepka along with DJ Cantlay and McIlroy. But let's get into some of these bets that I'm looking at here. we'll start with some of just my top 20 sort of prop bets, things like that. And we'll get to my winner at the end. First, there was an odds boost on Dustin Johnson, John Rahm, Brooks Koepka, Colin Morikawa, and Xander Schauffele to all make the cut. Honestly, that was a pretty easy one to jump on. DJ and John Rahm, I think two guys that are going to really fight to win this Masters. I'll foreshadow it a little bit. One of these guys that I just named is my pick to win. But Dustin Johnson, John Rahm, Brooks Koepka, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, all great ball strikers, and all should make the cut unless they have just horrible weeks. Brooks Koepka gets up for majors. Colin Morikawa, the PGA champ. Xander Schauffele seems to be right there at every major he plays in. And then you got DJ and Rahm, who are the two of them playing some of the best golf on the planet in 2020 at different times. I mean, DJ just had that moment in the late summer where he was winning everything. Rahm winning a tough tournament at the Memorial. So I jumped on that. In terms of best 18-hole round score of the tournament, so basically the best round of the tournament, I jumped on on Justin Thomas at plus 1800. Thomas makes a lot of birdies. He's always up there in the conversation for averaging the most birdies on tour per round in a given season. And somebody like that, I mean, he'll do things even like, we talk about Aaron Hills, where Thomas shot 63 on Sunday at Aaron Hills. He wasn't in contention, but he just went out and dusted the course 63, and that he's always got a chance to just light up the course no matter how he's playing, because he just makes so many birdies. In 2021 right now, he's 7th at 4.92 birdies per round. If we go back to 2020, he was 2nd and 4.55 birdies per round. If we go back to 2019, he was 1st, 4.58 birdies per round. 2018, he was 4th, 4.34 birdies per round. You get my point. He's always got a chance to light up a course regardless of how he's playing. Oh, that's not what I want. Maybe that is what I wanted. But so I threw a couple bucks on him to have the best round of the tournament. The top Australian, I think Mark Leishman gets, behind Adam Scott and behind Adam Scott and behind Jason Day. Mark Leishman has very quietly been one of the best Australians in the world for a while now. He's pretty hit or miss at the Masters. He's either finishing top 10 or he's not getting all that close at all. But in 2018, he had a 9th place finish. He plays well in a lot of majors. Hasn't really, apart from the Open Championship in 2015 where he tied 2nd. I believe he was part of that playoff. But he had really nice odds there, and that's just one of those that, throw a couple bucks on a sort of a reaching kind of thing, and that pays out pretty handsomely. In terms of finishing top 20, every time Bubba tees it up at Augusta, I think he's got a chance to win. I don't think that's a bad bet. Also, just finished top 20, but also throwing Tony Finau and Jordan Spieth in there to finish top 20. Finau, I think, is a pretty. I'm really confident in his chances to finish top 20 at this event, and Spieth, it's one of those, the odds are just really good because he's playing poorly, but it's Augusta, and there's part of you that's like, it doesn't really matter how he's playing when he gets there. There's just something about Jordan Spieth at Augusta, and the odds are really good there, so I took sprinkle a little something on that. And of course, everybody and their mother throwing some money on Phil Mickelson to miss the cut. When it's plus 138, you got to jump on that. Phil has been just bad recently. If it's not a Champions Tour event, he's lighting up the Champions Tour. But other than that, he's lighting up the scorecard in a bad way. His results this year, T44 at the Safeway Open, but then he was cut at the U.S. Open at plus 13 through 2 rounds. He shot plus 3 at the Zozo to finish in 76th, and he was cut at the Houston Open last week. He shot plus 9, and that was with a hole-out eagle on his last hole of the tournament, 76-73. That's, that would be so awesome if Phil contends, or Phil, gets a top 10, but he's just been so bad recently, and I think everyone has jumped on that one pretty much. And then the last one we got right now is my winner of this event. Drum roll, please. Right now, I got Dustin Johnson to win this Masters. The last time he has played this well going into a tournament, it was going into a Masters. It was the year that he slipped and fell down the stairs right before the event, and so he wasn't able to play in the Masters that season. He didn't play in 2017, but since 2015, T6, T4, T10, T2. And the two majors this season. Yo, what's up, Drew? How you doing, brother? The PGA Championship T2 this year at TPC Harding Park. The U.S. Open T6 at Winged Foot. He's had a very, very good year just in general, and we can throw that up on the throw that up right here. Just give me 1 second. But has played very, very well this year. U.S. Open T6, the Houston Open T2. So he just finished tied for second last week. If we go back to 2020, the 2020 year, in reverse order, first at the Tour Championship, second at the BMW, first at the Northern Trust, second at the PGA Championship, top 12 at the WGC FedEx St. Jude Invitational, first at the Travelers. He withdrew at the 3M Open and missed the cut at the Memorial, but that was a long time ago. And here, you ready for these numbers? These numbers are absolutely ridiculous. So at the World Golf, at the WGC FedEx, -8. The PGA, -11. At the BMW 2 weeks later, -4. But between the Northern Trust and the Tour Championship, -51 combined. -30 at the Northern Trust. That's ridiculous. And then his most recent rounds being the U.S. Open, where he finished T6, and then at the Houston Open he finished T2, 11th with a 65 in round 4. He's trending in the right direction, has played a lot of really good golf this summer, this fall, and I feel pretty confident about that. He's never gotten over the hump at Augusta, but he's also never been... It's not like he's choked at Augusta. He's just always right there, and I think he has a really good shot to contend Clearly, I put some cheddar on him, put some skin in the game on Dustin Johnson to win the Masters this week. As for some of these other locks, I think a lock for top 10 is going to be Jon Rahm. I don't think I've actually put anything on him to be a lock to finish top 10, but I'm probably going to do that as well. He should be in a position. Jon Rahm's playing just as good as anybody else on the planet, if not better. Right now, he's one of the best players in the world, and he's won some tough tournaments this year. Finished 4th in 2018 at the Masters, finished T9 in 2019. He should be up there. I think that's a pretty good one. If you're looking for a top 10 bet, top 20, looking at your Rory McIlroys, your Tony Finau's, looking at the guys who have contended here in the past, looking at guys who always perform well here. If you're looking at Rory, Mr. Backdoor top 10 himself. If you look at Rory at Augusta, here's his last. It's since 2014. Here's his finishes. T8, 4th, T10, T7, T5, T21. T21 in 2019, but the point being is that he is always right there. Even if it's a backdoor top 10 at the Masters where he has to, he shoots 65 on the final day, 66 on the final day. He does that quite a bit, and that's a pretty safe bet there at T10. Like I said, I don't think Phil's going to make the cut. I also don't think Tiger's going to win. If you're looking for a star, that's definitely not going to win. I don't see a world in which. I mean, okay, that's not. Of course, you see a world where Tiger wins every time he tees it up at Augusta. That was a silly thing to say, and I certainly take that back. But Tiger doesn't play a lot of events. He hasn't looked good at any events recently. At the U.S. Open, he was cut. At the Zozo, he finished tied for 72nd. If you go back to the 2020 season, at the BMW, he finished tied for 51st. The Northern Trust tied for 58th. The PGA tied for 37th. The Memorial tied for 40th. He hasn't finished inside the top 10 at an event, a PGA Tour sanctioned event, since the Farmers Insurance and that was in January of this year. And if we go back to 2019, he was clearly trending in the right direction, competing a lot, so 17th at the Hero, which is not, that's like finishing last, but T20 at the Farmers, T15 at the Genesis, T10 at the WGC Mexico, had a T30 at the Players, but finished with the 69 and shot 6 under, so played pretty well there. T5 at the Dell Technologies Match Play, and then he went and won the Masters. That kind of, first of all, he played in the 2 months leading up to the tournament. He played 1, 2, 3, 4 events, which at this point in Tiger's career is pretty good. Since the BMW in late August, Tiger's played the U.S. Open and the Zozo, neither of which he performed well at. And by the time we start tomorrow, it'll be basically 2 months, and he's played twice, and he didn't play well at either. And we can talk about how he expects to contend, and we can talk about how he feels better than he did last year, and I'm sure all of those things are true. But even Tiger Woods has a really hard time contending at majors when he's not sharp. And he was to the point where he was sharp last season, before the Masters in 2019. He's not sharp here. And to be honest with you, he doesn't play enough to be sharp. That's the biggest hurdle when it comes to, in my opinion, that's the biggest hurdle when it comes to Tiger winning enough majors to catch Jack eventually. It's not necessarily that the talent is so much better. I mean, it is so much better, and that's a big part of it. But Tiger just doesn't play enough anymore to be, like, by definition, he cannot be at the top of his game, no matter how well he's playing in practice, in Jupiter, Florida. We never talk about any player being at the top of his game unless he's performing well in actual events. And we just went through it. Tiger Woods is not performing well in actual events right now. Hasn't performed well in actual events in quite a while, actually. With that being said, it's Augusta, it's Tiger, and I actually saw a tweet today, and I can't remember. I think it was from Brandel Chambly, the Golf Channel, analyst. Jack Nicklaus won his 6th Masters in 1986, 23 years after his first. He was ranked 33rd in the world going into that week. You guessed it. Tiger, if he wins this week, it will be his 6th Masters, 23 years after his first. He is currently ranked 33rd in the world going into this week. That's pretty uncanny. Now, does it ultimately mean anything? No. And I could go back and look at what Jack Nicklaus was doing. Let's see. Jack Nicklaus, 1986 results. So if we go back to Jack Nicklaus, let's see. Let's see if Jack Nicklaus. Can we get back to 1986? We can. Let's see. So it's possible, because here's what Jack Nicklaus did in 1986. T60, cut, T39, cut, T70, T47, withdraw, cut, first. So it is possible, but I find it unlikely. We'll see, though. I'm certainly not counting Tiger Woods out. I just don't think he's going to win. I think there are guys who are much more capable in this particular situation, and guys who are just playing better golf right now. And not just guys who are playing better golf because it's early in the season at these Ho-Dunk Sanderson Farms events. Dustin Johnson's, John Rahm's, Patrick Cantlay's of the world, all playing Bryson DeChambeau's, all playing a lot of really good golf against a lot of really good fields. So I'm not betting on him. I don't think he'll win. We'll see if he misses the cut. I don't expect him to be a cut. That might be a bold prediction of mine, that he misses the cut. But I don't really believe in that. But we'll see. I don't think he's going to seriously contend to win the event this year. I just don't think he's playing golf right now at the level you need to. But then again, neither was Jack in 1986, and he went and shot 65 on a Sunday and won the tournament. So what do I know, right? What do I know? But there it is. We start bright and early tomorrow. I'll be there. I'm excited about it, and I'm looking forward to a Masters in November. Coming up next, we're going to talk about some mid-season awards in the NFL. We're halfway through the NFL season, which is crazy, more than halfway through the NFL season, and that's just a little bit ridiculous. But we'll do those things coming up next. You're watching the JMULL Show, 110sportsmedia.com. Welcome back to the JMULL Show on a Wednesday. Twitch.tv/110sports, 110sportsmedia.com/live. We're halfway through the NFL season, which is absolutely ridiculous. And it happens every year that I look up seemingly minutes into the NFL season and we're already halfway through, and we've already got guys that are clearly sticking out in the MVP race, the offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, coach of the year, so on and so forth. So what we're going to do now is mid-season awards, and I feel pretty good about all of these, in the sense that something's going to really have to change for these things to not come true. But with that being said, let's hop right into it, starting with the MVP, most valuable player. Right now it's Russell Wilson, and honestly I'm not sure it's all that close. 2,541 yards passing, 28 touchdowns. Not only leads the league right now, but is the third most through 8 games. In NFL history, Brady and Manning are the only guys to have more touchdown passes through 8 games than Russell Wilson does this year. Seattle leads the NFL in points per game, 30 points in 7 of their first 8 games, and they have an average of 34.3 points per game. And all of it has to do with Russell Wilson. Seahawks are converting 86% of their red zone trips into touchdowns, and Wilson has carried the Seahawks to a 6-2 mark so far, and in a good division. And honestly, they should be 7-1. They imploded late in that game against the Cardinals, and they gave up 44 points against the Bills. And this is part of the reason why I think at the end of the day, Wilson's numbers are going to be so ridiculous that it's hard to make anybody else MVP, is because the Seahawks defense is horrendous. Horrible. They're allowing 362 yards per game this season passing. Like Wilson is putting up historic numbers in the passing game and just as a quarterback through 8 games, so is the defense, just in a bad way. It's the worst mark in league history through 8 games. They gave up 420 yards against the Bills last week. 27 first downs. You know, it used to be that Russell Wilson was just the guy who didn't make a lot of mistakes and let the defense carry, the defense be the centerpiece of teams that were competing for Super Bowls. And there's nothing wrong with it. Just ask Peyton Manning about his second Super Bowl that he got in Denver. Peyton Manning was, no, the best game manager of all time, but a game manager in that particular season. And that defense was just so good that Peyton just needed to be functional. And Wilson's never been quite to that level that Manning was at in that particular year. But he used to be the guy that, you know, the story with the Seahawks is that they have a good coach, they have a guy who doesn't make mistakes under center, and they have a disgusting defense. Now it's pretty much the exact opposite. I mean, Pete Carroll is still there. Pete Carroll is still a solid coach. But that defense is so bad that now it's Russell Wilson. You need to go out and score enough points so that our defense can suck, give up 31 points, and we can still win. That's where we're at with Seattle right now. And that's part of the reason why this is just, so a couple things have to happen. Right, of course the Seahawks still have to keep winning. You know, if they win 6 of every 8 games, you know, they end up So if we just double those things, those two things, you end up 12-4. And if you're 12-4, that means that Russell Wilson has done some really impressive things, because the defense isn't going to get any better, at least not that much better. They've given up 25 points, 30 points to a Patriots team that has a bad offense. Now, Cam Newton was playing much better at that point in the season, but still. Gave up 31 points to the Dallas Cowboys, 23 points to the Dolphins, 26 points to the Vikings, lost to the Cardinals, giving up 37, gave up 27 to the 49ers, and then 44 to the Bills. 44. And that's just passing. That's not the run. Buffalo had 34 yards rushing. 34. We're making Josh Allen look like an all-pro quarterback. 415 yards, 31 to 38 passing, and 3 touchdowns. That front seven is that defensive line is pretty good, but they just can't stop the pass to save their lives. So I think Russ has put himself in a position to be the MVP, and I also think he's put himself in the position where he's going to have to keep performing like that for them to for the Seahawks to continue to win 6 of every 8 games that they play. Offensive Player of the Year, I think right now it's between Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook, but Alvin Kamara plays a massive, massive role for the Saints. He's the team's leading running back and leading receiver. Let me say that again. He's the leading running back and the leading receiver. That's absolutely ridiculous. 96 rushing yards for 400 attempts for 471 yards. He's got 5 touchdowns. And then receiving, 60 receptions. That's double anybody else. Double. Also, I just realized there we go. Double the amount of receptions as the next best receiver on their team right now. Now, to say that Michael Thomas is not one of the best receivers in the NFL and certainly on this team is silly, but he's been injured. He's been kind of a head case so far. He's only played in 2 games. He's got 8 receptions for 68 yards. Kamara, 60 receptions, 565 yards, 3 touchdowns. So 8 total touchdowns. He's averaging just under 60 yards per game on the ground and 70 yards per game receiving. He's doing it all over the place. The next guy on that list right now is definitely Dalvin Cook. Cook is one of the best running backs in the league right now. He's been very, very good. If we look at the 2020 season right now in terms of rushing, Derrick Henry is up there. But Dalvin Cook, 858. If you go from yards, based on yards, Dalvin Cook is leading the NFL in rushing yards, 858 yards. He's also got 12 touchdowns. That's 3 more than anybody else in the NFL right now. He's been absolutely dynamic in Minnesota. It's part of the reason that Minnesota is 3-5 when they should be worse than that, to be honest with you. But he's been very, very good so far. He's also, he doesn't do a whole lot of receiving, but he can be a threat in that situation as well. But we're talking somewhere, 130 yards, 181 yards, 206 yards, 163 yards. He's just an absolute weapon and I think that's where that he deserves the Offensive Player of the Year so far. Defensive Player of the Year is Aaron Donald. Death taxes on Aaron Donald being the best defensive player in the NFL. It would just be dumb to not pick Aaron Donald. Tied for the league in sacks with Myles Garrett. He's an interior defensive lineman, but his pressure stats are as good as every edge rusher in the NFL, if not better. He's the most dominant football player on the planet right now. And I honestly don't think it's even close. 6-time Pro Bowl, 5-time All-Pro, to give you an idea of just how good he is. But this season, he's already got 9 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 15 QB hits. He's just been so good. 9 sacks through 8 games. He's forced 3 fumbles already. Recovered another one. He's been absolutely elite since he got to the NFL in 2014, and that hasn't changed. He's absolutely ridiculous. 6'1", 280. Can we talk about that? It's absolutely ridiculous. But it would just be, there's no need to pick anybody else. Aaron Donald is that guy so far. As for Coach of the Year, it's either you have to look at Mike Tomlin, 8-0 Steelers, the only undefeated team left in football. But maybe look at Brian Flores as well, the Dolphins head coach. The Dolphins, I don't think they're the best team in the AFC East, because I think that honor belongs to the Bills right now. But they have the best defense, and he's just a good coach. 5-3. And for the first time in a while, they're not the laughingstock of the AFC East. And that's an impressive thing, because I'm not sure that's what was supposed to happen in the AFC East this year. But as we stand right now, the Dolphins are 5-3, 2 games ahead of the third place New England Patriots. Of course, you got the Jets that are 0-9, but the Dolphins are in it, man, for that division, 100%. And I don't know off the top of my head when they play, because they played the Bills once already. That was a 31-28 loss. They'll play the Bills again the very end of the season, week 17. And when you look at their upcoming schedule, you got the Chargers, Broncos, Jets. Those are all winnable games. Bengals, that's another winnable game. Then you got the Chiefs, and that's probably a loss. But then you've got the Patriots, that's a winnable game with how the Patriots are playing, at least right now. The Raiders, and then at the Bills. It probably won't happen, because I think the Bills are good. But there's certainly a world in which the Bills, they stumble a couple times. Maybe they lose a game they shouldn't. And then we've got a game at the end of the season that's really important. But it's either Brian Flores or Mike Tomlin right now, looking at a team that is overachieving and looking at a team that is undefeated. I mean, those are the two obvious places to go when talking about Coach of the Year. I think that we're, and then we're looking at Rookie of the Year. That's the last one I want to talk about. I think right now it's either going to be Herbert or Joe Burrow. I think Herbert's been the more pleasant surprise, because I think I think Burrow is good, and I was expecting him to be pretty functional pretty quickly. Herbert, I'm surprised that he's as good as he is this quickly. Both of them are in the top 10 in passing yards this year. Justin Herbert in 10th with 2,146. Burrow in 8th with 2,272. But Herbert has thrown 17 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions, has the better QBR right now. He's also got the better football team, which is certainly worth taking note of. But then again, how good the football team is a player in these awards. Like, no MVP has ever been on a bad football team. But those two guys have been fun to watch, and it's fun when you have rookie quarterbacks come into the league and make an impact right away as starters. But those are my midseason awards. Russell Wilson, MVP. Alvin Kamara, Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year goes to Aaron Donald. Coach of the Year, probably Tomlin right now, but Flores, I think, is there. And Rookie of the Year, really a toss-up between those two guys. I give the edge to Herbert right now, though. His stats are a little bit better, and that's just a better football team in Los Angeles. Not much better, to be honest with you. Not much better, and not as... But I think that we'll get to a point where his numbers are just a little bit better, and you have to give him the nod. And a lot of those, I mean, they coughed up a chance to beat the Broncos, and it wasn't because of Herbert. But those are my midseason awards. Coming up next, we'll do some FY. Get out of here on a Wednesday. You're watching the JMULL Show, 110sportsmedia.com.
Sit down.
Welcome back to the JMULL Show on a Wednesday, wrapping up the show here with some FYI. For your information, Steelers have placed QB Ben Roethlisberger, offensive lineman Gerald Hawkins, running back Jalen Samuels, and linebacker Vince Williams on the team's reserve/COVID-19 list. As a precautionary measure, they were deemed high risk after tight end Vance McDonald tested positive for COVID-19, and they had come into close contact with the tight end. So they are both on the COVID-19 list. Also, some interesting trade rumor stuff in the NBA from yesterday. The Suns and the Oklahoma City Thunder had discussions regarding a Chris Paul trade. There's no imminent deal on the horizon, but to talk about a team in the Suns who dominated the bubble and did literally everything they could to try to get into the playoffs, and then it just didn't work out because the gap was just too big and they weren't quite able to overcome it. But talk about a team that's one of the more interesting and one of the teams that believes that they deserve it, that they can get a spot in the playoffs next season, that just didn't have aspirations like that at the beginning of last year. If you add Chris Paul to that, a young team that needs help on the defensive end, you bring a guy in, a veteran like Paul that demands excellence and can guide some of these young players. That's a really, really intriguing deal. Now, it of course depends on what they would get back from, how much the Thunder would want for Chris Paul, but that is a very intriguing proposition there, and one that makes the hairs on my arm stand up, because it's certainly one that I think would completely change the Suns and make them a team that has a really, really good shot of getting into the playoffs next season. Excuse me. And then for your information, at 7 a.m. tomorrow is the beginning of the Masters. I'm pumped. At 7 a.m. on tee number 1, Lucas Glover, Corey Connors, and CT Pan now driving. And on the 10th tee, Sandy Lyle, Jimmy Walker, and Yuxin Lin, the amateur from China. I'm pumped. I'll be watching all weekend. We'll talk on Friday about what we've seen at the Masters so far. Maybe we'll probably talk some Thursday night football. Look forward to the weekend, do the podium, all of that stuff on Friday. But I believe that's pretty much all I got for you today. Of course, tomorrow, Touchline Talk with Josh Doring, Around the Bases with Chris Brown, 11 a.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Eastern, respectively. Check those shows out tomorrow. I'll be back on Friday. Until then, please take care of yourself. Stay safe. We'll meet right back here, twitch.tv/110sports, 110sportsmedia.com/live at 11 a.m. Eastern on Friday.